All right, and joining us today on the podcast, we've got Stuntman Stu. How are you doing today, sir?
Really good, Kyle. I'm impressed with those certificates behind you. Are they real?
They're real, but I'm not going to lie, most of them are my wife's. So I like to look smart with all of her diplomas behind me there. But
I
I
know.
was going to say, you've got yours behind you as well, too, there. So
All fake.
yeah. Xerox shops are good for something, right?
Yeah. And I want to apologize to start off the interview because you messaged me a lot on Twitter, and I didn't realize it until I finally saw the last one. I didn't know all these messages existed in a direct message on Twitter. There's like a separate category,
Yeah.
and I apologize.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Hey, you're a very influential man there, so I'm sure you're getting hit up by stuff all the time. So we're just happy to sit down with you and have a conversation. So, I mean, a good place to start is first and foremost, how are you doing? How are you feeling these days?
I'm feeling really good. I went back to work this week, and after being off for a year, battling my second leukemia battle, that resurfaced last January. So it feels good to be healthy and on this side of the planet.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, does it add sort of a sense of normalcy to your life there, given the fact that everything you've been through, COVID, homeschool, and everything that's going on in the world, to be able to hop on with the old crew again and get back to on air?
Absolutely. Just to be able to, jibber jabber every day with Angie and Janelle, just like we did last January, felt really good this week.
Yeah, I can
It
imagine.
means, it means from 6 till 10 every morning. I'm not just watching Netflix.
Yeah. Well, did I see on Twitter the other day you've got some sort of a basement setup, like a home studio that you're recording from
Yeah.
now?
So I've got this really fancy piece of equipment that I've only been told just touch these two buttons, nothing else. They know the engineers know me well, so it's
Yeah.
catered perfectly. So it's like I sound like I'm in studio, but I'm in my basement. It's a
Yeah.
very long commute in the morning.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're rocking the same commute as I am. There, you have two flights of stairs, and then you're at the office, eh?
Yes.
So I'm assuming you weren't born with a microphone in your hand, right? So obviously you got interested in broadcasting and all that at a certain age. When did that all some sort of come to be for you?
Well, as a kid of the 80s, I consumed a lot of television, like nonstop. I was an only child. I didn't have anybody to play with. I mean, I had kids on the street to play with, but most of the time was in front of the TV. And I always wanted to be on TV. And I used to listen to the radio nonstop with my dad. He would drive me to school. And I remember around age 10, I really wanted to be on the radio because I had my birthday announced on the radio. I'm like, that is so cool. I remember the guy who did it, the late George Balkan on CJ80 in Montreal said, "Happy birthday to Stuart Schwartz in Dollar Desormo." And I'm like, what?
I've made it. I'm on the radio. Yeah. So, do you remember sort of what your first foray into, whether it was radio or even doing some local television or anything like that, what it was and sort of what your feeling was when you were getting ready to go on air for the first time?
Um, I did television broadcasting at Dawson College in Montreal. And that was my first taste of like a news setting, even though it was to tape, and the only people that watched it were in our classroom.
Yeah.
But I somehow BS my way into the Montreal Forum to get a press pass for practices during the '93 season. So I saw a lot of hockey that season. But I remember the thrill of being behind the anchor desk and seeing the floor director go, just like Wayne's World.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was the feeling in your stomach? Was it nerves? Was it excitement? Was it, all right, I've made it from that 10-year-old version of me that heard, my name called on the radio?
Well, like I was, because it was only live to tape and it wasn't going out to like the masses.
Yeah.
I had a nervous feeling in my stomach, and even more because we screwed up. You had to restart the whole show over again. So the pressure was on not to screw up. It was a good
Yeah.
lesson early on.
Yeah. So it was more so just making sure you didn't make a fool of yourself that the cute girls in your class wouldn't see it
Exactly.
than the millions around the world then.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you end up getting, hooked up with the Senators and your initial foray into actual in-game announcements and all that?
Well, this goes back to 1991. I remember emceeing an NBA Jam slam dunk competition, not for the NBA, but for the local wannabes in
Yeah.
a parking lot in 1991, wearing my Reebok pumps and going, "Oh, that's a jam!" Announcing, "Next up, Devontae Smith, what a jam! And I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be the announcer at the Montreal Forum, the late Claude Mouton, la troisième étoile, the third star, le numéro 19, number 19, Larry Robinson.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to do that as like a side thing along with the radio and TV. So when I moved to Ottawa and got started in radio, and around the year 1999, a friend of mine said, "Hey, I'm on the promo team for the Ottawa Rebel Lacrosse. Do you want to join as CP announcer?" I'm like, absolutely.
Mhm.
So that was my first foray into sports in Ottawa. I was the public address announcer for the Ottawa Rebel Lacrosse, and then Rebel Lacrosse owner also owned the Renegades. So I made the shift from the lacrosse to football. I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
Learning on the
Thank God I had two spotters telling me exactly what to say, because I knew football, but not enough to announce it. And then after that, it was around 2000, summer of 2006, a buddy of mine, this is before social media, a buddy of mine called me and he's like, "Have you seen the Senators website? They're looking for an announcer." I'm like, I didn't know that. So I was in the studio at the Bear at the time, and I recorded a horrible audition tape for the Ottawa Senators as best as I could.
Yeah.
And then they called me for an audition. So that's how I got my audition for the Sens.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember what was on that audition tape there all these years later?
Utter shit.
It's not going
number
on
15, Danny Heatley. I think I have it somewhere.
Yeah, so I was gonna say it's not going on the personal highlight reel of your Hall of Fame then, eh?
Not a chance.
So I mean, that first game, you're actually you've got the gig, you're making the announcements and all of that there. Was it more nerve-wracking to do it knowing that not only is it live, but here are all these people that if you do screw up, like you can literally turn around and see everyone staring at you? Or was it more nerve-wracking your first time on, say, Magic 100 or something like that?
Radio has always come fairly natural to me, and even my first day on Magic was nervous, but it wasn't as nervous as because I had done radio up until that point for like 15 years. So like 13, 15 years. So I was comfortable behind the mic, but it was still nerve-wracking taking over a legendary station like Magic at the time. But the announcing for the first time at the Ottawa Senators was completely different from anything that I ever experienced, because football is different, lacrosse is different, but NHL hockey is my baby. That's the one that I love the most. And I'm behind the mic announcing for the Ottawa Senators. It was thrilling. I remember my first night, being incredibly nervous. We had gone about 2 games before I got to announce the Senators goal, and the Greg Millen on CBC said, the announcer hasn't announced a home goal yet, and he's 2 games in. Yeah. And it was Dean McCammond, his first goal. Nice. That I announced in the NHL.
Nice. On that note there, over all the years that you did do the Sens home games, and whether it was a Senators player or a guest goal that got scored or whatever, was there ever a player or two who you were just hoping didn't score because their last name was such a jumble of letters that it was impossible to pronounce?
Oh, definitely. Now, every game I would go over the visiting lineup, and I would always talk to Gord or Dean, or if they weren't available, I would go talk to the out-of-town guy. And I'm like, how do you announce this guy's name? And there would be all these hyphens and phonetics, and there would be names I would dread. I'm like, please do not announce that name, please, please, please. And I'll never forget, Curtis McElhaney was playing, I think, for the Islanders maybe at some point, and he was the backup, and it was Dave Schreiber that said, "Oh, that's McElhaney." I'm like, okay, McElhaney. I'm like, I couldn't pronounce it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he gets put in the second period. I'm like, now in goal for the whoever, Curtis McElhaney. But from that point on, I made sure that I knew every out-of-town player's name perfectly.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking back on your time with the team there, if you were to put together sort of your pantheon of, these were maybe the top 2 or 3 moments that I got to experience live, and whether it was announcing a goal or just being there and witnessing it live, what sort of, your all-time best looking back?
Definitely announcing the Stanley Cup Finals my first year, which was unbelievable. I started as a rookie, and then we're in the Stanley Cup Finals. Mm-hmm. It was like nothing else. Elliot Friedman was live from the press box before the game. And basically, when he passed off to me, because he's walking through the press box, "Hey, it's game 3 of Stanley Cup Finals. We're here in the press box. There's P announcer Stu Schwartz." And then he pointed to me, and So it's my first Stanley Cup game announcing. I'm nervous enough, and then I've got CBC going to me. I'm trying not to look like I'm shitting my pants, and I just put my head down and just started doing it. The next greatest moment that will forever live was announcing the gold medal game in '09.
Mhm.
There was nothing better than announcing a gold medal game. We weren't sure if we were going to that game. Thank God Jordan Eberle scored when he did, and
Yeah.
sure enough, we had a sold out rink, and I couldn't even hear myself announce.
Yeah.
Um, Announcing Alfredson's, I think it was his 1,000th point. It's all foggy with
Yeah.
chemo brain. It was Alfie's night, and then announcing a player's first ever NHL goal was always special to me. Not because the player would remember it 20 years after he retires, but the fact that likely their parents, their friends are in the crowd, and you don't want to screw that up. That's their special moment. You absolutely have to make it perfect. Those are the only goals that I would actually write out just in case.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was gonna say, going all the way back to that gold medal game there, I was actually working in the kitchen, and we had just ended our shift, and I was actually driving back with the Boschman. So Laurie Boschman's driving us all back because we all live sort of near each other there, and we're listening to it on the radio because it was the last whatever 5 minutes of it. And I think we nearly ended up in the ditch because all of the boys and I, when they did do that, we heard that he had scored. We were going so crazy that I was amazed that Laurie kept it on the road. So kudos to Laurie Boschman for his driving skills on that one there.
And he's a dirty player in men's hockey, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, on top of all of the fun stuff that you got to do with the Senators, obviously you got to experience quite a few unique things doing sort of emceeing events, whether it's, a fundraiser or a special kickoff or whatnot over the years there. Looking back, what are some of the coolest things that you got to experience holding a microphone in terms of, community events or kickoffs?
Well, definitely the 100th anniversary game at Lansdowne Park was awesome
Yeah.
between the Sens and Habs. That's something I'll never forget. That was close to the end of my tenure with the Senators. Prior to that, I remember announcing the NHL All Star Weekend. That was a dream come true. I was actually I kind of bullshitted my way to get on the ice for the Saturday skills competition. I was supposed to be announcing from up top. And I just kind of said to the producer, I'm like, wouldn't it be easier if I'm on the ice, just in case, like I can be closer to the players, closer to the action, thinking not a chance. And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, no problem. So we'll put an IFB in your ear and we'll tell you what to say. So I'm standing like this close to Stamkos. And I remember Claude Giroux came around. He's like, I'm going to do this and this. I'm like, okay. Because he thought I was like important,
Yeah.
which I'm not. But that was awesome to be on the ice with the players, just standing around emceeing. Another one that stands out is the draft in '08, announcing the players as they came off. I would re-announce to the crowd. I mean, I didn't have to announce it because like everyone saw who went up. So I'm like, oh, the Tampa Bay Lightning choose from the blah, Steven Stamkos.
Mhm.
And I was like right close to the stage, which was an awesome experience. Getting to announce in Sweden in '08 was awesome. As the pro Penguins announcer on the Saturday and the Ottawa Senators announcer on the Sunday, because the league only sent one announcer, so that was the deal.
Mhm.
Um, Community events, there was so many Sens galas where I was on stage auctioning off the players for a dinner for like $40,000-$50,000 and having fun with the players. When I could, I would give them jabs, but they were all great sports. Never had a bad experience with any one of those players.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely some cool events for sure there. And
Yeah.
now your focus is back to what was formerly Magic 100. It is now what, Move 100?
Yeah.
Move 100. So when you and the team are getting ready to do, sort of an on-air segment in the morning there, what kind of preparation goes into actually getting the next day's, segment ready to go?
Well, usually after the show, the three of us will talk. Normally in studio, we would sit and talk for like 25, 30 minutes. Now, because we're all virtually, Janelle's the only one in studio. So Angie and I are broadcasting from home. So throughout the show, we're FaceTiming each other for the 4 hours. So after the show, we're like, do you want to talk about this tomorrow? And Angie will say, let's try this. And I'll throw a suggestion. And that's how we kind of put together the show.
Okay, okay. And so hypothetical situation here. Let's say Angie wins the lottery tomorrow. She says, "See you later, guys. I'm retiring to Cabo. I'm done." Who would be, if you could have your pick of the litter of anyone in the world and they had to say yes, who is your dream co-host to come in there, whether it's a celebrity or otherwise?
J-Lo.
J-Lo.
Sorry, Angie.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. Are we going strictly for scenery here? Or?
If the roles were reversed, Angie would say, "Sorry, Stu, The Rock."
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, before we let you go, obviously, you've mentioned hockey is your baby. You've grown up watching it for so long. This year, obviously, a little bit different, all Canadian division here.
Yeah.
So, want to get at least your predictions on, who's going to be the cream of the crop this year, who's going to be in the basement, and sort of where the Sens you think will end up slotting in and all of that.
I mean, there are people that are much smarter than me that will give you a much more intellectual opinion. I mean, I think they'll be in the middle of the pack, but for the top of the division, I wouldn't be surprised if Montreal runs away with it. I mean, Montreal's stacked. Now that could be just me, my Montreal roots showing, but listen, I would love nothing more than the Ottawa Senators to get there. But I think, given with DJ Smith, given with all the young guys like Stutzel, let them work their way in. We still have Brady Tkachuk and Thomas Chabot. We have a great nucleus of guys. I'm looking forward to seeing Eric Goodbranson on the D. And I think this club will be a contender.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, we've seen crazier stories. I mean, Cinderella stories. But I don't like, whenever I hear somebody write off just on paper, like, screw off. How do you know? How do you, we don't know.
Yeah.
Don't write anybody off.
Yeah. If the Vegas if the Vegas Golden Knights can come in and, not have a single season of experience under their belts and go on the runs they can, their crazier things can definitely happen for sure.
Yeah.
But, it'll be interesting to see, especially numbers wise, how many viewers are going to be tuning in, given the fact that it is going to be all Canadian teams playing each other. And, I think it's, opening night, it's back to back with home stands for, Ottawa, Toronto, Winnipeg, and sort of get some of those rivalry games going there. So hopefully we will get to see some of those things that you probably witnessed in person when you were emceeing for the Sens there. But those good old time hockey sort of rivalries get renewed a little bit.
Definitely. And I hate the Leafs, by the way.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I was glad that you didn't at least put them at the top of the division, like, TSN and Sportsnet and everyone is. So
I'd rather stab myself with a fork than cheer for the Leafs.
Yeah, you'd rather eat your Hawaiian pizza than
exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. Well, for those that are listening right now and are excited to hear you back on radio, where can people tune in and hear you weekdays?
Move100.ottawa.ca is the site, and on the dial, if you're still doing that, it's Move 100. And if you yell at your smart speaker, Alexa, play Move 100.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, it's great to see you again. We wish you all the best. And for those that are listening, tune into Move 100 weekdays to catch Stu and Angie and the crew live every morning.
Thanks, Kyle.